Greetings, fellow detectives. Wizard Kitten here, bringing you a new Nancy Drew analysis video. Today's video is brought to you by the patrons over at Mystique Manor and by all the official fellow detective channel members. If you too would like to support the channel and gain access to exclusive features, check out patreon.com/wizardkitten to become a patron, or click join next to the subscribe button to become an official fellow detective, junior detective, or senior detective. A few times now, I've done Nancy Drew analysis videos where I take my least favorite Nancy Drew games and explain everything I would change about them in order to fix them. Up to this point, my two least favorite games haven't received this treatment because there's so much to fix about them that the videos would take quite a bit of time. But today's the day, because I'm finally doing a video where I explain everything I would change about the Shattered Medallion. If you're interested in other videos like this, I'll link them in the description. And to prime yourself for this video, you might want to check out my review of the Shattered Medallion, linked in a card in the upper corner. Also, it should go without saying, but this video will include spoilers for the entirety of the Shattered Medallion, including the culprit and ending. Up until Midnight in Salem was released, the Shattered Medallion was my least favorite Nancy Drew game. To fix this game, there are 5 major problems to address. First up, the premise of the game. Yes, this game has problems even before it starts, even at the conceptual level. To summarize, in this game, Nancy and George travel to New Zealand to compete in a game show similar to The Amazing Race, Pacific Run. In this game, Nancy and George are supposed to travel around to a bunch of different countries with their fellow competitors, competing in exciting challenges and solving complicated puzzles in search of medallion pieces, all while earning points and sabotaging their competitors. This concept is incredibly cool, but in the actual game, the running of the game show is accidentally sabotaged by the showrunner, so the competitors are trapped in New Zealand, but the game show continues on as planned. Basically, Nancy runs around still attempting to compete in air quotes. This looks like her independently solving random puzzles, occasionally interacting with her competitors, and finding random point cards. The biggest issue though, no matter how you play the game, no matter how fast you solve the puzzles, no matter how many point cards you find, and no matter how many times you sabotage competing teams, the outcome of the game show will always be exactly the same. This is a major letdown because it removes any stakes the game would otherwise have had. There is literally no point in trying to win or even lose because the game show will always end in a sudden death match between Nancy and Curie, a sudden death match that isn't even supposed to happen anyway because it's not included in the rules of the game. To fix this problem, I propose keeping the premise of the game the same. Nancy and George are still competing in Pacific Run, but the game of the Shattered Medallion starts about halfway through the recording of the game show. At this point, Nancy and George will have just arrived at their camp in New Zealand. The camp and puzzles will have been set up, but the showrunners and crew are nowhere to be found. 2 other competing teams, Curie and her partner Aaron, who will now be a physical character, and Patrick and Lena will have also already arrived. All the competitors meet together at the camp, confused. Whenever they've arrived at any of the other locations, there has always been a crew to meet them and explain the next step of the game show. All of a sudden, all the characters get a message on their phones from the Pacific Run app. Continue the show as planned. Proceed to the challenge area. Complete the train puzzle. All the contestants immediately rush to the challenge area. This is a competition, after all. Starting the game with this format fixes multiple problems with the game. 1, it explains the absence of the game show crew and all the other competitors. Instead of trying to pretend like other people are there with fake confessionals and vague references to the crew, just remove them completely under suspicious circumstances. This creates an immediate sense of mystery and danger. What happened to the crew? What happened to the other competitors? Did they never arrive, or did something happen to them? And who is sending the messages for the 3 teams who did make it to New Zealand to continue? This is immediately more suspenseful and interesting than the original premise of the Shattered Medallion, and we're just getting started. The next major thing we need to fix is the treatment of Bess and George. In the original The Shattered Medallion, George is around for about 2 minutes before falling off a bridge and then sleeping for nearly the rest of the game. Bess steps in as Nancy's alternate, which frankly shouldn't be allowed because none of the other teams seem to have a random buddy tagging along to step in as needed. Bess's character is also super weird in the game. She's needy, she's whiny, and she's boy-smitten in an annoying way that simply isn't true to her character in any of the preceding Nancy Drew games. Canonically, Bess has grown a lot at this point. She shouldn't be acting in this way because it isn't true to her development as a character over the course of the series. To fix this, I'm sorry, but we need to remove Bess as a physical character. It just doesn't make sense in the context of the game show to have her around. In her place, we will be able to include Aaron, Kiri's partner, as a physical character and additional suspect. This means the game will have more suspects, more competitors to interact with, and no weird explanations for missing people. George will remain a physical character, but she won't be immediately taken out of action. George will remain at the camp through much of the game, but she'll periodically disappear to complete tasks for her and Nancy. She'll find point cards, she'll be the one to find one of the flowers for the flower scavenger hunt challenge, she'll post a score to the kayak race, she'll find clues and books, etc. She'll actually be participating, just not in ways Nancy can necessarily see. She'll also be a helpful confidant for Nancy as they try to figure out what on earth is happening with the show. After all, they can't trust the other competitors, even if they seem to be just as confused as George and Nancy. And don't worry, I'm not getting rid of Bess completely. To allow her to participate, she'll be a phone friend. However, Bess needs a reason to be a phone friend who can actually contact Nancy and George, because their phones purposefully do not have outside cell service to keep the competition fair. To remedy this, Bess will have gotten a position as a social media intern for Pacific Run. Up until this point, she will have been tagging along with George and Nancy and the rest of the competition, taking pictures and running the Pacific Run socials. Nancy and George will obviously be stressed about her absence, but partway through the game, Bess finds a way to contact them. Nancy randomly gets a call on her phone from Bess, who explains that she's still trapped at the previous remote island location with the rest of the crew. Their plane was grounded and never took off, so none of them were able to leave. They keep running into mysterious roadblocks that prevent them from leaving every time. Their electronics have also stopped working, which means they can't contact anyone to get off their island. They're trapped, but Bess manages to get a communication phone from one of the crew that allows her to contact Nancy through the Pacific Run app. Bess will be an important lifeline for George and Nancy, feeding them information about what the showrunners are trying to do behind the scenes. This revelation from Bess will also be crucial, because if the showrunners aren't sending them mysterious messages to continue the competition through the Pacific Run app, then who is? The game show will continue in this fashion. The competitors will keep getting strange messages urging them to continue with the puzzles while earning points. None of the competitors want to stop because they all still really want to win, even if something seems incredibly fishy. Each time they complete a puzzle, they'll find medallion pieces, passwords, and clues on how to continue through the island. This will take place over the course of several days, because there's no way any of this is happening in just one day. Nighttime sequences will only happen at the camp, because exploring the island would be too dangerous at night. Nighttime sequences will involve competitors periodically sitting around the campfire. Nancy can chat with George, Kiri, Aaron, Patrick, and Lena how she normally does during the day, and can also chat with some of the competitors at night around the fire. Nancy will also have the option to eat around the fire and prepare food throughout her stay, because you know I need a cooking puzzle. On the first day of the game, Nancy will work with Kiri to set up a traditional Maori hongi, an underground oven lined with hot stones that cooks food. The pit will have already been dug, and the competitors will find chopped proteins and vegetables stored for them in the camp, but Nancy will need to prepare and cook it each day using the hongi pit. This is important for 3 reasons. 1, this infuses some important Maori culture into the game. 2, it adds a fun additional puzzle that isn't solely related to the game show. And 3, it helps give the illusion of the passing of time. This brings up another important element missing from the game that we need to remedy, which is compelling inclusion of Maori culture. All of the game show puzzles can stay the same, especially since many of them include information on Maori language and culture, as well as some of the plants native to New Zealand. However, this needs to be expanded significantly. By adding the hongi cooking method, we've already included more Maori influences, but the game should include even more. First, in addition to collecting flowers for the scavenger hunt, Nancy's book should also include fruit trees native to New Zealand. After reading the book, Nancy can find these trees scattered throughout the island and collect the edible fruits to share with her competitors at nighttime around the fire. Second, instead of the sheep puzzle taking place with a random sheep statue in the stable, Nancy must use the sheep book to interact with all the different sheep varieties in the field. The sheep will be wandering around, she'll have to catch the right ones, and sort the wool accordingly. This will make the sheep a bigger and much more interactive part of the game. Third, New Zealand has multiple unique bird species, including penguins, albatross, and kiwis, one of the world's largest insects, the weta, and a unique reptile called a tuatara. Instead of spending time on the underwater submarine puzzle, which doesn't include any animals or teach us anything about New Zealand, I propose putting animation effort into scattering animated models of these animals throughout the game. It can even be a scavenger puzzle to take pictures of each of the animals and then sort them with fun facts so we can learn more about them, much like the bird puzzle from Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake. Adding these types of puzzles actually infuses the game with a sense of New Zealand and Maori culture. As Nancy and George participate in the original puzzles and these new challenges, they will still be collecting points for their team. The speed with which they complete the puzzles will actually matter, so players will end up winning or losing the game by the end of their playthrough. This will not impact the story, but players will be able to get an achievement and some alternate dialogue if they finish the game with the highest amount of points. This gives the game show some actual stakes and makes completing the puzzles quickly and accurately more exciting and motivating. Different dialogue options with the characters will appear throughout the game depending on how well George and Nancy are doing. If they're winning, the characters will be jealous and will occasionally trash talk. If they're losing, the characters will be condescending and tease them for their poor performance. And speaking of dialogue, that's another huge thing we need to fix in this game. Of all the modern-era Nancy Drew games, this is the worst example of the confusing slam poetry-esque dialogue that permeates most of the later games. Half the time, speaking with these characters is an exercise in futility. They almost never make sense, they bring up random tangents, their personalities get obscured by weird anecdotes, and very little of what they say is actually grounded in the context of the game. To fix this, only one of the characters, Patrick Dowsett, will remain a little baffling, but even he is going to scale it way back. He can still be kind of a lovable doofus, but he's not going to be completely clueless like he is in the original. The other characters will also retain their personalities, but instead of talking mindlessly about their lost career as an aerial artist or their time working at a symphony, they'll be talking about the competition, what's going on at the camp, their suspicions about the game show, how to survive on the island, and other practical things related to the mystery and the game. This will help the game actually feel rooted in the game, instead of some ethereal, floating off into space kind of fever dream. The storyline will feel rooted in New Zealand. The mystery of the sabotaged game show will take center stage, and we'll actually get to know the characters on a personal level rather than an abstract spiritual level. I seriously can't express enough how badly I want these characters to talk like real people. This alone will fix the game so much. But the single biggest thing that will fix this game is the culprit and the ending. You will have noticed that I've gone this entire video without mentioning a certain someone, and that is purposeful. This right here is how we're going to take what many fellow detectives consider the worst or second worst game in the Nancy Drew series and turn it into perhaps the best game in the series. As Nancy and George have been solving the puzzles and progressing through the competition, they've started finding strange clues and coded notes. Some of the clues look familiar, like drawings Nancy has seen before but can't quite place. She finds a crumpled up Cocoa Kringle wrapper, a little rocket ship keychain, the corner of a magazine bearing the phrase House of Design, and a random guava, even though guavas aren't endemic to New Zealand. The notes are currently indecipherable because Nancy doesn't have the necessary key to decode them. Again, all through the game, they've been receiving cryptic messages through the Pacific Run app, urging them to continue through the puzzles and the competition. Strangely enough, each time they complete a major puzzle and find a medallion piece, they also start finding pieces of a ripped-up note. It isn't until Nancy finds the final medallion piece that she finds the final piece of the ripped-up note. Nancy pieces together the note and all of a sudden receives a frantic phone call from Bess. Bess just received a cryptic message through her Pacific Run app. Send this file to your friend. Her life depends on it. Bess immediately sends the file to Nancy, who immediately realizes it's the key to decode all the notes she's found. Nancy quickly sets to work decoding, and eventually reveals the message in 5 parts. 1. Hello, Nancy. I've been waiting for you. 2. It's been too long. 3. I require your assistance. 4. You and your friends cannot leave until your mission is accomplished. 5. I await your arrival at the following coordinates. Nancy doesn't have a GPS, so she rushes back to the camp. Everybody is gone. It looks like they've all vanished without a trace. Nancy receives a message in her Pacific Run app. It says, "Hurry, Nancy," followed by 4 numbers. Nancy recognizes these as a lock combination to a trunk that has been locked the entire time she's been at the camp. She unlocks the trunk and finds a GPS. The trunk also includes clothes and, in the corner, barely visible and easily missed, a tiny little alien sticker that looks a lot like Minette's tattoo. Nancy whips out the GPS and plugs in the coordinates. They lead her deeper into the Lake Te Anau caves than she had previously gone. Nancy ties a rope, climbs down, and sees a raft. She must navigate the raft through the rapids until she finds a large open cavern with a device in the middle. Nancy approaches the device. "What is that?" Nancy says out loud. She hears the crunching of footsteps behind her. She spins wildly around and screams when she sees a young man with bluish-purple hair, black glasses, and a polo shirt with a green embroidered alien. He puts his hands out, attempting to placate. "Whoa, whoa, it's okay, I'm not going to hurt you." "Who are you?" Nancy shouts. "Well, you and I have sort of met before," the man says with a quirky sideways grin. "No, we haven't," Nancy shouts. "I've never seen you before." "True," the man says with a small laugh, "but I've seen you." "Excuse me?" Nancy says. The man smiles softly. "My name is Sunny June." The camera fades to black, and Nancy enters her first ever conversation sequence with Sunny June. "Sunny June?" she says. "The Sunny June? Beach Hill Sunny June? Minette's House of Design Sunny June? The one and only," he says emphatically. "Also known as Carnivale apprentice Sunny June, rejected from Castle Finster Sunny June, and founder of Spied Sunny June, to name a few." Nancy stammers. "But how are you? What are you doing here? And what's going on? Are you responsible for everything that's been happening here?" Sunny sighs. "Allow me to explain." Through a series of grainy Polaroids, Sunny explains. "After I got fired from Beach Hill, I realized I forgot a box of my things. When I went back to get it, there was a huge commotion going on in front of the museum. I saw cameras, lights, microphones, a whole media setup. And in the center of it was you. The reporters were interviewing you, just this teenage girl. I could hear them shouting questions. 'Nancy Drew, how did you escape? Nancy Drew, how did you know what was inside the monolith? Nancy Drew, have you apprehended the culprit? Nancy Drew, what's your next case?' I immediately knew that I needed to learn more. You see, I run an organization called Spied. Perhaps you've heard of it." Nancy answers suspiciously. "Yes, a woman named Jamila told me about it when I was on case." "In Egypt," Sunny interrupts excitedly. "Precisely. Back when I was working at Beach Hill, Spide was in its very beginnings, far from the organization it is now. We follow an ancient code based on writings found in all ancient civilizations. The ancient Maya, the ancient Egyptians, it's all there. These writings explain how our ancient ancestors left clues scattered across the planet that would one day combine to reveal the secret to reconnecting with our ancient fathers. I followed these clues everywhere. Beach Hill was one of my stops, and unbeknownst to you, it's also where we first crossed paths. But I don't understand, Nancy says. How did we cross paths? I took all of my own cases. You're not saying you had something to do with that, are you? Well, Sunny shrugs, you took most of your own cases. Everywhere I went, I kept my eye out for mysteries. After that day at Beach Hill, I did some research and found out that you were a burgeoning private detective. I knew you couldn't resist a good mystery, so if I happened to find one, I casually dropped your name, credentials, and contact information wherever I went. Amy Grunhild, Minette's financial backer, she got a fake email from your father casually mentioning you were a detective who just got back from a case and had some free time, so you were helping him out with some legal documentation. Perfect timing, huh? Good thing you were available to go undercover as Minette's intern. I was so proud of you when news broke that you had recovered all that beautiful stained glass and stopped a plot to gain intel from the First Lady. You really are good. Nancy gasps. So every time I came across your notes, that was on purpose? All of that? All of this is because of you? Sunny grins. Guilty. You see, Nancy, I knew you were exactly the person prophesized to reveal our ancestors' secret. I've come to this same spot dozens of times, and every time I walk away empty-handed. I can't figure out the final solution. But you can. I've found a way to help you hone your skills, and now you're finally ready. Pacific Run presented the perfect opportunity, and now you're here. Nancy pauses. So you hijacked Pacific Run? You stranded Bess and the crew back on the island? All to get me here? Why didn't you just ask? Sunny sighs. It had to be this way, I'm afraid. The other two teams were ahead of you, so they managed to make it off the island. They weren't supposed to. I'm just glad you all banded together and stayed safe. I just needed you. You alone. The prophecy states that the guide, that would be me, and the architect, that would be you, must be in the cave alone. Otherwise, the Anunnaki won't reveal themselves. Tell me, Nancy Drew, if a strange man had reached out to you and demanded you come alone to this remote cave in New Zealand, would you have done it? Players choose between a yes or no answer here, which inspires different dialogue. Then, the story continues. Regardless, Nancy Drew, you're here now, and I'm afraid I can't let you leave until you solve the device for me. That one, right there. There is only one way out of this cave, and I'm the only one who knows where it is. You're going to solve the puzzle for me, Nancy. And then, the Anunnaki will finally appear. All my work will finally have paid off. Nancy can attempt to escape here, but she'll get a second chance every time. The only way out is to solve a series of increasingly complex constellation puzzles. When Nancy solves the puzzle, the stars appear on the ceiling, much like the endgame of the original. When Sunny realizes the Anunnaki will not be appearing, but he has simply found yet another clue, he has a breakdown, much like he does in the original. Suddenly, Nancy hears George's voice calling out to her. In a panic, Sunny flashes a grin at Nancy. You haven't seen the last of me, Nancy Drew, he calls, before diving into a pool and swimming into the depths out of sight. George appears and throws a rope to Nancy through a small hole in the cavern. Nancy climbs the rope and climbs out of the caves, only to find George, along with Kiri, Aaron, Patrick, and Lena. Before Nancy returned to the camp to get the GPS, they all received a message in the Pacific Run app. Nancy Drew is in danger. Save her at Cromwell. They all ran to Cromwell before receiving a different message. Just kidding. Go to the caves. It seems Sunny distracted them with a wild goose chase before leading them straight to her in the caves so they could save her. By the end of the game, Nancy is left wondering if Sunny June is a bad guy or a good one. Were his intentions good, Or would he go to any lengths to see his conspiracies realized? Is Nancy safe from his interfering for now? Or will he find her again? Only time will tell. And so we have my version of the Shattered Medallion. One that fixes the strange dialogue, remedies the nonsensical plot, improves the character interactions, infuses the game with Maori culture and New Zealand influences, gives the game show stakes, enhances the sense of adventure, and actually makes the reveal of Sunny June just that, a legitimate, exciting reveal. But what do you think, fellow detectives? Do you enjoy my remake of the Shattered Medallion? Would you do anything differently? Let a Wizard Kitten know in the comment section down below. If you really enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like button or tipping me for the video with a super thanks next to the download button right beneath the video. If you would like to come join a fantastic group of fellow detectives at Mystique Manor as a patron for the channel, gain access to exclusive content, and support the making of more content like this, please check out patreon.com/wizardkitten. I also have channel memberships with exclusive badges and emojis to use during streams and in the comment section. If you'd like to support the channel by becoming an official fellow detective, or as a junior or senior detective with patron benefits, click join next to the subscribe button. Please feel free to follow the channel on Instagram or Discord, linked in the description box down below. And as always, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more Nancy Drew and Cozy Game content. Thank you so much for watching, fellow detectives. I will see you soon.